If there is ever a person who I would like to trade lives with or trade at least a day in their life, it's maybe this guy called Larry Gagosian. This is the person who I've been studying for many, many years. And most of you listening, you've never heard of him, but today you'll learn so many various lessons and takeaways on what you can pretty much implement in your own business from his own journey. And I've been doing a research on him for many, many years, and I decided that, okay, I feel now that I would like to share some of those which I've learned by taking notes and studying him in very deeply. So most people hear the name Larry Gagosian and they think, okay, he's an art dealer. But that's like calling a great investor a stock picker or a holdco company builder just a business owner. But the truth is that Larry Gagosian is one of the most effective capital allocators in the world. He built a billion-dollar empire by mastering one of the most opaque, emotional, relationship-driven markets on the planet, which is fine art. And he did all that by having no investors, by having no board, and he did it by having no outside capital, and he still owns 100% of his own business, of the business today. And again, he didn't raise a fund, he didn't build a marketplace, he didn't start with connections, all from scratch. So if you're serious about like becoming a great investor or becoming a better investor, becoming a better holdco builder, or a company buyer, this is the story and this is the person who you would like to study, and I did it for you. So because behind the art is a system. There is a playbook. There is a repeatable method for how to build a deal flow, how to control distribution and pricing, how to use brand to command a premium, how to turn relationships into leverage, and very importantly, how to make markets, not waiting for them. So pretty much you create your own tailwinds. It's 100% doable, and today we are going to cover it all. So I hope you learn a lot. So if you're building a portfolio of companies, if you're raising capital or just buying a business, or if you're building a long-term firm that compounds, then you will learn a lot from this episode, which you can pretty much like steal for your own journey and to like get better at what you do. So I'm going to break down Larry Gagosian's empire and translate his strategies into actionable lessons for capital allocators like yourself. So let's get into this. In the section number 1, I'd like to cover his shark mentality, how to build a billion-dollar deal engine. And let's start with his foundation, his operating system. What separates Larry Gagosian from 99.9% of other entrepreneurs and every other art dealer is his governing mindset, which is keep moving, keep selling, and keep building. This is the machine. An art critic described him like this: he's a shark, a feeding machine. Doesn't really analyze too much, no existential hand wringing, no waiting for perfect information, and definitely no looking backwards. When asked why he avoids self-reflection, Gagosian answered bluntly, because that's how you lose your edge. And that edge, his forward-moving momentum, is what built a billion-dollar empire with no outside capital. So here's how it looks in practice. And number 1 lesson, 100 cold calls a day. Because early in his career, Gagosian didn't have inventory. He didn't have relationships. So he built 1 call at a time. He'd sit at the table, phone in hand, and make 100 outbound calls a day, mapping who owned what, asking what was for sale, even when nothing was, finding out who might sell for the right price. He literally created a market by sheer willpower. In one story, he spotted a painting at the dinner party, took a secret Polaroid of it, and the next day began making offers to buy it on behalf of his clients. He turned private collections into liquid inventory, not by waiting, but by moving fast. If the owner refused to sell, he doubled the offer. If they refused again, he doubled it again. That's what we can say a shark does. He didn't work like, will this work? His thought process and his mindset was, what's next step I can take to make it work? So another thing I took notes, he never waited for the invitation. Gagosian didn't come from the world he operates in. He wasn't born wealthy. His father was a pro gambler who sold penny stocks to relatives. He didn't know anyone in art. He had no formal education. He started by selling kitten posters in a parking lot. So how did he break into the elite art world? He showed up uninvited. He'd crash parties, talk his way into rooms, walk up to billionaires and ask for the number. When he saw S.I. Newhouse walking on the street with Leo Castelli, one of the most powerful media moguls in the world, Gagosian doubled back, walked up and introduced himself. No hesitation, no credentials, just went and said hi to this person. That became one of the most valuable relationships of his life. So the question I have for you and for myself as well, if you want access, if you want more deals, if you want better deals, if you want your business to grow, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the auction process. Don't wait for a banker to call you. You have to create your own momentum. And this is the number one lesson I took from Larry Gagosian. 100 cold calls a day and just go talk to people who you want to talk to. Default aggressive beats perfect timing. This is where Gagosian's style diverged from the most investors I meet today. They hesitate. They want another spreadsheet. They want to wait for the right deal. They want to analyze downside risk, weighted probabilities, and optimize for IRR. What Gagosian did, he acts. He finds a target. He calls. He offers. He moves. And then, only then, does he figure out the rest. He's like a yes man. And what's more impressive is this. He doesn't just close quickly. He closes repeatedly. In one story, a billionaire hesitated to buy a painting for $8 million. He wanted to pay $6 million instead. A few days later, he changed his mind and called Gagosian back. And Gagosian's response? It's too late. It's 11.5 now. 11.5 million. And that's power. That's the confidence he had. And that's a premium you can charge when you're constantly moving while others are waiting. A quick pause. Larry Gagosian built his empire by putting himself exactly where the buyers were, even opening a gallery at the private jet airport. And that's what Scalebath does for entrepreneurs and operators. It's a vetted network of over 2,000 business owners across the US and Europe. And when you book a free call with their founder, Rand Larson, today, what he does, a special offer today, is he will introduce you to 3 operators in your niche or in your region. People who actually walk the similar path like yourself, so you can discuss ideas. You don't need to do it everything by yourself like Larry Gagosian did, but you can have fellow entrepreneurs sharing stories, sharing hard moments with yourself and coming up with solutions. So it's not a Facebook group, it's not a Slack channel, it's like a real world network of fellow entrepreneurs and operators who are on the same journey like yourself. So to get to know 3 such people, go to joinscalepath.com and book your free call. Now back to the show. So the implementation for investors and holdco builders, if you're trying to build a deal pipeline, if you're raising capital, buying businesses, or just scaling your current portfolio company, I think one thing you can learn from Gagosian's first principle is action is the strategy, momentum is the edge. Many times, many business owners, investors, they don't suffer from bad decisions. They suffer from no decisions. So here's what I recommend and what I'm trying to do myself, and this is actually straight from the Gagosian playbook, is make a list of 50 businesses you'd like to own. Call 5 every day, even if they're not so-called for sale. Ask direct questions like, would you ever consider selling? What would it take for you to sell the business? And if not now, would it make sense in a year? And if you do these type of calls, 5 a day, even 2 a day, even 1 a day, but you do it for a year and you keep following up with those business owners, there will be some great businesses which are coming to the market very soon. And who you think will be the first person they will call to? I mean the owners. It will be you. So maybe like a final thought from this section is Gagosian didn't scale in the traditional sense. So again, he didn't raise VC, he didn't like build the software, he didn't hire armies of analysts to analyze those paintings. He scaled by being the most aggressive, most visible, most persistent player in a slow-moving market. And for yourself as well, if you're building a holding company, investment firm, is it HVAC company, software, logistics, niche services, real estate, or anything else, you have the same opportunity. But the only question is, will you stay on the sidelines waiting for permission, or will you act like Gagosian? And the great way to put it is what I do myself every time I'm maybe thinking of doing something. I'm simply asking myself, what would Gagosian do? Like literally, what would Gagosian do? And 99 times out of 100, it's this bold decision which I have to make, whether sending this email, whether it's making this cold call, whether it's making this follow-up, and most importantly, by making this offer. So every time something hard comes up, I'm asking myself, like, what would Gagosian do? And I act based on that. Section 2, total control, the real engine of compounding power. So let's talk about one of the most unappreciated secrets behind Larry Gagosian's billion-dollar empire. Actually, it's not art, it's not access, it's not even sales, but it's control. He owns 100% of his business. Again, no board, no shareholders, no outside capital, no one to answer but himself. Yes, that might sound obvious or even quiet, but think about it for a second. In a world where everyone's raising capital, selling equity, and inviting in strategic partners, Gagosian said no. He never diluted, never took money from a bigger player. He scaled to nearly 1.5 billion in sales and 19 locations globally, all while maintaining absolute ownership. So what are some of the things he has done and has been able to do thanks to owning this 100%, where he doesn't really justify anything, where he doesn't need to justify anything to anyone? No quarterly investor updates, no performance hurdles, no board votes, no exit timeline. That means Gagosian could do things that didn't make sense in the short term, but paid off massively in the long term. For example, he invested in sprawling multi-million-dollar galleries in cities like New York, Paris, Rome, and Hong Kong. Not because they'd immediately yield ROI, but because they sent a signal. We are the art market. He hired a Picasso scholar, not to write books, but to gain access to Picasso's hairs and catalogs. It wasn't a marketing hire, it was a chess move. He hosted lavish dinners, rented multi-million-dollar properties, and threw pre-Oscar parties, not as indulgences, but as business development vehicles disguised as lifestyle. Question for yourself and in a company you're working, in a business you're building, would a CFO or VC backer have approved that budget? Very doubtful. But when you own 100%, you don't ask for permission. You bet when you know you're right. Another very important thing is your vision can change over the years. And I wrote down, control means no delusion of vision. When Gagosian opened his first gallery, obviously it wasn't glamorous. He was flipping prints on the sidewalk. But from one day, he had a vision. Become the global gatekeeper of modern and contemporary art. And because he owned it all, the vision never got diluted. No partner wanted to pivot, no investor pressured him to exit, no board asked him to chase short-term returns. And his firm could do something most investment firms can't, is stay weird, stay pure, stay mission-driven. Even when competitors told him he was crazy, even when the old guard looked down on him, and even when opening a gallery at the private jet terminal sounded insane, which is, by the way, what he did, because he has always said that find people who have money, a lot of it, and go sell them something. So the next best idea he had was to open a gallery in a private jet terminal. So he did it in Teterboro, New G, and it worked. Wealthy clients saw art while waiting for their jets. He sold pieces in minutes. No traditional dealer had thought to do that. And a great lesson, and maybe how you can apply this as a portfolio builder while buying different businesses, making different investment decisions. Number one is start lean. Grow with revenue, not rounds. Gagosian reinvested profits. If he could bootstrap in the art world, you can bootstrap in HVAC, B2B services, accounting, trucking, you name it. Number two, structure deals that keep you in control. Even if you bring on partners or debt, don't give up majority equity unless it's non-negotiable. And even then, fight for golden shares or buyback options. Number three, delay fundraising as long as you can. If you prove your model, capital will chase you, and then you can choose capital on your terms. And number 4, use your capital freedom to make non-obvious bets. Sponsor that industry event. Hire the nerdy analyst with weird insights. Buy the company no one else understands. If it aligns with your edge, bet hard. And in here, I would like to add like a short note, which I just said. Number 4, use your capital freedom to make non-obvious bets. Number 1 was, remember, sponsor that industry event. So when you take this podcast, Holdco Builders, we also have the weekly newsletter, which has over 3,100 readers, and it has like 61% average open rate. And I've sent out this email once a week for the past 2 years. And on top of that, we have Private Equity Guy Twitter, which has 50,000+ followers. So if you are listening and you are a fund or some type of B2B service and you would like to reach a lot of like-minded people, people who make capital allocation decisions, people who buy businesses, run funds, people who run private equity funds, they're investors, high net worth individuals, members of family offices, feel free to reach out to me, because we do some type of collaboration once in a while with people like yourself. Sometimes we charge money for that, sometimes we don't. So my ask for you listening is just reach out. Maybe there is some type of opportunities we could work on. And I'm saying this out now because Larry Gagosian was doing very non-obvious bets as well. And you never know what works and what doesn't work. But when it actually works, it does magic. Like the example I just gave you when he opened an art gallery in a private jet terminal, which, again, not too many people were willing to do, and not too many people even had the idea of doing this. So, yeah, feel free to reach out. A quick break. Larry Gagosian knew one thing better than anyone else. It's that relationships run everything. And it's how he went from flipping cheap prints in LA to selling $100 million paintings to the most powerful people in the world. And here is the truth. You don't have to sell art to do what he did. So if you're a holdco builder, capital allocator, or a company buyer, your gallery is an email newsletter, because a great newsletter gives you direct access to your ideal audience. It builds trust week after week by sending this newsletter. And take it deal flow, take it talent, it all comes to you because you've been in their inbox 50 times before you ever ask for anything. It's the difference between chasing opportunities and having them chase you, just like Larry Gagosian did. So that's why I've teamed up with Spacebar Studios, the best in the game at building newsletters that drive trust, inbound deals, and real revenue. And here's the kicker. The first 6 companies who book a call this week will get their email newsletter built for free. They do it for your company for free. Just go book a free call, have a conversation with them. To do so, go to spacebarstudios.co and book your call. Because remember, in this world, relationships are your edge and your newsletter is how you scale them. Go to spacebarstudios.co and book your call and get your free email newsletter built for you for free. Now, back to the episode. Next big lesson, build a market around your edge. The power of secondary markets, information asymmetry, and unsexy arbitrage. There's a moment early in Gagosian's rise that holds one of the greatest lessons for investors, and I would say holdco builders today. It's a bold sentence, but hear me out. It's the moment he made a crucial decision, a fork in the road. Should I chase the next great artist, or should I dominate the secondary market, the resale of already proven art? He chose the latter. Not because it was glamorous, not because it was respected, but because it was fragmented, opaque, and wide open, and nobody serious was taking it seriously. This decision to focus on the resale of art instead of the creation of it was where he built his empire. All that, again, wasn't a creative decision. It was a capital allocation decision. It was about building a market where others saw noise. And there's an entire blueprint here for holdco builders, and let me walk you through it. Secondary markets, the overlooked gold mine. Back in the 1970s and early 80s, the secondary art market wasn't where the prestige was. Art dealers wanted to discover talent. They wanted to be tastemakers. But Gagosian, you're right, he didn't care about prestige. He cared about pricing power and information asymmetry. He realized something critical, and this is his quote. If I focused on work that had already been validated, art that had already sold for meaningful amounts, then I wasn't betting on taste. I was operating in a live market. So he wasn't guessing what might be worth something in 10 years. He was monetizing what was already worth something, just more than most people realized. And what is the best part? There was no central clearinghouse, no database, no index. And most people didn't even know where the best prices were or what they were worth. So Gagosian built a secret map. He literally tracked who owned what. He built a Rolodex of collectors, heirs, institutions. And when someone wanted to sell, he knew who to call. And when someone wanted to buy, he knew where to find it. He became the human Bloomberg terminal of post-war and contemporary art. This is how you build a private monopoly in a chaotic market. So, what Gagosian did right and what you can do as well. Let's break it down tactically, because this is exactly what great investors and business buyers can do. Number one, he built around proven assets, not speculative ones. He wasn't trying to pick winners. He was transacting in already valued assets, which let him price with confidence and speed. He created liquidity in an illiquid market. Owners of valuable art didn't always know how to sell it discreetly. Buyers didn't always know where to find it. Gagosian matched the two and charged 20 to 30% fee. Number three, he exploited fragmentation. Again, there was no platform, no CRM, and no any type of styled index. So Gagosian became the platform. He became the index, the center of gravity. And he operated with earned secrets. He knew what was coming to market before it came to market. He knew which collectors were running out of cash. He knew which heirs hated the art and wanted money instead. And the quote I wrote here, earned secrets produce treasure maps. So maybe a very obvious but not so obvious idea for yourself is look for secondary markets in a business ownership. Too many people chase maybe this creation when there is more money and less risk in redistribution. And maybe instead of creating this new platform, what if you rolled up legacy B2B SaaS companies already doing 1 million plus ARR? Or instead of launching a new HVAC brand, what if you bought 3 30-year-old operators and consolidated scheduling and dispatch? Or instead of selling to new customers, what if you just connected people already looking to exit with people eager to enter? These are secondary markets in this quiz. And like Gagosian, you don't need to own the inventory. You need to own the transaction. And in whatever strategy you are choosing, remember the fees which Gagosian was charging, 20 to 30% on each transaction. That's pretty wild. Another thing, build around your edge, not around status. One of the most important lines in this entire research is, what is establishment of an existing industry ignoring? That's your opportunity hiding in plain sight. In Gagosian's time, the art establishment looked down on the resale market. They wanted to be curators, not brokers. But he didn't care. He wanted leverage, not love. And that freed him to build where others refused to look. He became the man who could get anything, the guy who knew everyone, and the person who could get deals done faster than anyone else. That became his moat. There wasn't the technology, there wasn't capital, but speed, certainty, and information. Next, it comes down to information plus urgency, and all this means margin. And in one legendary story, Gagosian arranged a 30 million art sale between 2 billionaires in a single weekend. He made a phone call on Friday, confirmed the buyer's interest on Saturday, and closed the deal on Sunday. That kind of velocity only happens when you know where the asset is, you know who wants it, and you create a sense of urgency. So he didn't just match buyers and sellers, he collapsed time. And in collapsing time, he expanded his margin. So a big investor takeaway. Lessons from Gagosian's secondary market play. Number 1. Don't ignore what the establishment overlooks. There is a fortune in boring industries that elite capital investors still ignore. Maybe it's septic services, pest control, B2B email tools, outdated payroll software. These are your secondary markets. Number 2. Price on information, not emotion. Gagosian knew when sellers were motivated and when buyers were insecure. That's how he captured alpha. You can do the same in business acquisition by knowing more about the seller's story than your competitor does. Number 3, create a map of your niche. Know who owns what, who's aging out, who's exiting, who's acquiring, who's growing. Build your private index of your sector. And number 4, be the connector, not the creator. Most people want to build from scratch, but connecting existing players and capturing the spread is often much more profitable. And the final thought of this section is build a market around what others dismiss. It's very obvious, but Gagosian made his fortune where others felt it was beneath them to operate. And in doing so, he created a market that eventually became the market. He wasn't just selling art. He was allocating capital in a place where nobody else saw capital, only canvases. If you want to build a durable holding company, don't compete in the obvious game. Look deeper, go where others aren't, own the spread, move fast, and build your edge around earned knowledge, not surface level status. Because that's how Larry Gagosian built his own empire, and that's how you can build yours. The next section, one of the favorite from this research, is build relationships, not deals. If there is one recurring theme in Larry Gagosian's story, one thread running from his early flip-the-print days in Los Angeles all the way to becoming a billion-dollar gatekeeper of the global art market, it's this. Relationships run everything. It's not about networking or being likable. For Gagosian, relationships were the business model. They were his edge, his differentiator, and his steel machine. So, if you're building your investment firm, buying companies, or just building a fund, long-term investment firm, you'd be a fool to ignore this. Because long before Gagosian had world-class galleries, billion-dollar artists, or elite brand recognition, he had a phone book. And remember, I said to you 100 cold calls a day, the cold call that changed his life. Again, it all started with a cold call, and it happened early in his career. Gagosian was trying to move a painting by William de Going. The painting was owned by none other than S.I. Newhouse, the person I mentioned before, the publishing tycoon who ran Condé Nast and controlled some of the biggest media brands in the world. And Gagosian got his number, picked up the phone, and pitched the deal. The quote, "You've never heard of me, but I can get you something you want." Newhouse was skeptical at first, obviously, but the guy was pretty intrigued, and the deal went through. And that one call launched a decades-long relationship between the two men. Newhouse became not just a client, but the silent business partner, co-investor, and inside source. They bought and sold dozens of works together. They shared information, which in the art world is the ultimate currency. And they built trust, one transaction at a time. And from there, Gagosian gained access to an entirely different orbit of people. Take David Geffen, Ronald Lauder, Bernard Arnault, Paul Allen, the Japanese collector class, the Qatar royal family. Again, he wasn't selling paintings anymore. He was brokering access, curating taste, managing wealth disguised as art. And every bit of it, every deal, came down to a relationship. So, relationships run everything. So there are lots of similarities now with this succession issue when it comes to those businesses and when it comes to this art and Larry Gagosian I've shared today. Heir maps, not organization charts. One of the most fascinating parts of, again, this research is how he tracked not just art pieces, but people. When a collector died, he'd figure out who inherited the work. If it was split among heirs, he'd find out who got what. If the heir was uninterested in art, he'd start building a rapport. Send a note, send a book, maybe invite them to a dinner. And over time, when that heir wanted liquidity, who do you think they called? They didn't call the nearest gallery. They called Larry, because Larry had earned the right to be in their life. He did it quietly, consistently, and he had a great strategy in doing this. He wasn't chasing transactions, he was building future inventory. This is the art world's version of proprietary deal flow. Next one, co-conspirators, not just clients. Another layer to Gagosian's relationship building genius is how he viewed his clients. To most dealers, a client is a source of money. He's a buyer. To Gagosian, a client is a co-conspirator. He'd buy with them, sell with them, trade with them. They weren't just people who he sold to. They were people he built with. David Geffen would call Larry for inside info on a painting he wanted. Gagosian would source the piece, structure the deal, and take his cut, all without ever listing it. Sometimes the client wouldn't even know they were in deal until Larry said, "Hey, I've got something, but you need to move now, or it's gone." This level of embedded trust is what every investor dreams of, and what every holdco builder should strive to cultivate. What it all mean to you, the investor or operator you are? I think here's a punchline. Gagosian didn't build his empire on deal mechanics. He built it on relationships mechanics. And this maps directly to the world of investors, business buyers, and private investing in general. So if you are trying to build a portfolio companies, whether through a self-funded search or micro PE fund or a long-term investment platform, you need to treat the relationships as infrastructure. I'll give you a few examples. Let's call it like how to operationalize Gagosian-style relationships. Number one is build your own proprietary network. Stop just relying on brokers and auctions. Instead, build your own map of owners in your target vertical. Get to know like who's retiring, know who their kids are, know who they respect. Do it like just like Gagosian mapped Heirs. You should be mapping company founders. Be default aggressive, but long-term oriented. Gagosian made 100 phone calls a day early in his career. He didn't pitch with desperation. He pitched with confidence and curiosity, because if you do 100 cold calls a day, you, number one, get super good at it, and you run out of FOMO because there are simply so many people, so many pieces of art. And same when it comes to businesses, business owners, there are so many businesses, so many business owners. So you can do it with the confidence and curiosity because you never run out of them. Another thing is like treat cold outreach as a muscle. Not for immediate deals, but for relationship compounding. Again, do it for a year, even if it's one a day. See what happens with this 365 days. Number 3, don't be transactional. Check in with sellers even after a deal falls through. Send articles, refer talent, offer ideas. When they're ready to exit, you will be the one they trust. Host real-world interactions. Gagosian threw parties, hosted dinners, curated exclusive previews. I've heard stories that he has locations all around the world, from New York, Asia, fanciest places in Europe, and he consistently running all sorts of different events. They're super expensive, even on the boats, even on the jets. But this is what he does, and again, relationship run everything. But in the small business world, in the investment world, for you it might be like an investor summit or founder launches or just a small group events with various business owners. You just never know who you will meet in the next event. And the most important part is think in decades. Larry didn't expect ROI from every relationship right away. Some took years, others bloomed unexpectedly. That's the compounding nature of relationship capital. It's slow until it's not. And the investor takeaway, the relationship is the asset. In your world, the same logic applies. A founder who doesn't want to sell today might become your largest referral source 2 years from now. An LP who passed on your last raise might introduce you to a 20 million family office tomorrow. An industry contact you treat well today could become your deal partner in 5 years. And none of that shows up on a dashboard. None of it fits neatly into a CRM or a deal tracker. But it's what builds, we can say, empires. Gagosian knew this. The richest guy in the room still feels insecure when he can't buy what Larry can sell him. This is how the psychology works. And even billionaires, people who can buy anything, wanted what only Larry could get, because they didn't have the relationships he had. This was his edge. And surprise, surprise, it can be your edge as well if done right. Let's bring it all together. Gagosian empire rests on simplicity of focus, just simply selling more art. I read a story on him that even on his birthday and overall, like how he was able to sell and how he is still this day able to sell so much art is he has incentivized his own people super well. Like I've heard like 10% fee on each piece they're selling. And even on his birthday, he sent an email to his people selling, "Today is my birthday. Let's sell more art." So simplicity of focus, sell more art. In your case, sell more of whatever you do. Is it a product or a service? Just sell more of it. Another is total control. No partners, no delusion. It could be a case for yourself as well. It doesn't need to be, but it was for Larry's. Leverage of status and space. Remember how many parties and events Larry was having all the time, and these parties means sales events, nothing else. Mastery of secondary market. Let others take the early risk of finding those creators. You will capitalize of all of this work in a secondary market. Brand as pricing power. The Larry Premium. I don't need to say anything else in here. The Larry Premium is the thing. Next one, relentless outbound and intelligence gathering. Remember, early in his career, 100 calls a day. And all this is long-term relationships. That's what made all this possible. I'm sure he makes more money today than he has ever done because I think he's in the late 70s or early 80s, still super active, super busy, selling art. Imagine all the relationships he has built over this time. So if you're building a holding company, buying private companies, managing a portfolio, there are a few better models for execution, control, and market domination. And Larry Gagosian is a sales-driven, luxury-focused, niche-conquering global monopolist wrapped in a 60 million jet and a 1 billion income statement. And he did one cold call, one party, one off-market deal at a time. So my question to you, what's stopping for you? Because Larry Gagosian, he didn't sell art. He built a machine, a flywheel of trust, status, scarcity, and control. Obviously, it worked super well without scale, tech, and even funding. And this should be like your own big inspiration as well. For me, it is 100% because can we say that the next Gagosian won't hang paintings, but they'll buy companies, they own cash flow, they'll move quietly, and they'll happy to play this game for 40 years by building their own machine, by simply picking up the phone and playing the game like your, let's say, legacy depends on it, because many times it does. So my call to action to you is, if this episode gave you real frameworks to use, just send me a message or share it with your friends, share it with your partner, a fellow operator. And lastly, please follow and subscribe this Holdco Builders podcast. I'll do more breakdowns like this every single week. And I've got more stories of Holdco legends, interviews coming soon. Till then, see you soon. Stay focused, stay simple. My name is Mick, and make sure you keep building.